Hi, I'm Nadine Marks. I'm being interviewed about global stratification.
How do you define a social class?
Social class has to do with you have a big house, you have a small house. That's how it's defined.
What types of things do you associate with each class?
Each class, depending on the environment you live in, someone that has a big house with 5 bedrooms and 4 baths is probably a lot richer than someone that has a trailer home.
So, what do you think classifies someone as poor?
Classify someone as poor, someone that doesn't have the means to really work and eat and really have the things they need to do in society.
So, what classifies someone as rich?
Oh, someone that has more than they actually need to have.
How has social class impacted your life?
Social class has impacted my life in terms of, sorry. There are people out there that has a lot of money, and you sometimes want to be friends with those people because they have a lot of money, but they might not always be the best people to be friends with.
So social mobility has to deal with moving up and down social classes, so either maybe getting a promotion at work and like moving up a level, or maybe getting laid off and going down a level. So has social mobility affected you at all, like growing up or even now?
Social mobility has affected me growing up. My dad was always looking to get the better job, and we moved every time he did get a better job. So yes, when he got a better job, we actually moved to a bigger house.
Do you think social mobility is hard to accomplish?
I don't think it's hard to accomplish. I think if people put their mind to it and have a plan when they start out, I really believe that you can move up based on your earnings as long as you live within your means.
So global stratification has to deal with the haves and the have-nots, but on a entire world scale. Do you think global stratification affects you in any way, or is it that you're on such a small scale and that's on such a large scale that you don't interact with it much?
I don't think I interact with it that much.
And then what is your opinion on how it affects the world?
I think that we need to do more for some of the countries that are hurting at this time. So I think that I think there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of money that are more narrow-minded and they don't think globally.
So, do you think you could survive in one of those poor countries?
Probably not.
Now, thinking more on just our country, do you think you could live in an environment of the environment of where our country is the poorest? Because we're a developed country.
We're a developed country. I don't know whether I could live in the poorest area, but I think I could live in an area that didn't have a lot of means, yes.
Okay, so in our sociology class, we watched this video about this guy, Morgan Spurlock, the same guy who did, what's it called? Super Size Me, and he challenged him and his fiance to live for 30 days on working minimum wage.
Okay.
What do you think the hardest part about living just on minimum wage would be?
The hardest part about living on minimum wage, I think, would be paying rent. I think that if you're on minimum wage, there's enough subsidies in the country in terms of like food stamps and medical care and things like that that you could get. I think it's more about your housing, and it all depends on really what area of the country you live in. because if you live in a more rural area, then it would be easier to live than in, say, Basking Ridge.
Yeah, it's really funny because in the video they mentioned like the comforts of home was one of the most important part, because they had an apartment that they were paying like $300 a month, but it was infested with ants and not in a good part of town. So,
Okay.
do you agree that like the comfort of home is one of the most important parts?
I think that comfort of home is a very important part. I also think that no matter where you live, family is, as long as you're with family, doesn't matter if you live in a one-bedroom or a studio apartment, or you live in a 5,000 square foot house. It's all about your family in terms of that.
Now, going back to the whole idea of global stratification, a lot of those poor countries, like say in like Africa for example, in order to try to like make it big and gain money, they use their land to farm cash crops versus crops to sustain like their population. So cash crops include like cotton and coffee and stuff like that, things they can sell to global markets but not feed their people. So what would you do if your government focused more on cash crops than crops to feed you? How would you deal with that situation?
Yeah, that would be very difficult, because I understand the people want to make money because they want to sustain their family and they want to. But I also think it's important for the government to have an impact on really providing for the people in their country.
So you're saying it's important that to feed your country rather than make money for it?
I think it's important to feed your country. I think I'm always of your country comes first, and the people in your country need to have the benefits and need to have the support of their country prior to making money to export to other countries.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't understand, that if these countries didn't make the cash crops that we bought, our price of stuff would go up, and of course we throw a hissy fit about that. So we watched a video about Jamaica, and we kept lowering their salaries to manufacture things, and it came to a point where they were unhappy about it, so we moved to a different country that paid them even less. Do you think that's fair?
No, I don't. But Americans will pay hissy fits about a lot of things because of where we're, depending on where you live and things. So no, I don't think we should do that. No.
America sees itself as one of the more wealthy countries. Do you agree with that?
Yes, we are one of the more wealthy countries. There are a lot of countries out there that are probably more wealthy than us, but they don't have the democracy that we have. So that's what makes us who we are.
Well, do you count the $3 trillion debt in that in terms of wealth?
I think all countries are in debt in some aspects, in some respects, and if someone called us on that money, I'm sure there's enough people in the United States that would contribute to make sure that we were the democratic state that we're in, that we are. We would continue to do that. So.
Do you think democracy influences global stratification, or kind of like denounces it and has no effect of it?
I think it influences it.
In what way?
I think that you have to be, it's not always, sometimes democracy is, we all want to be democratic in certain respects, but it's not always the best for certain areas, or so you have to kind of tweak it.
Okay. Thank you, Mommy.
You're welcome.